The reality is, like we talked about it before, this guy's too important to the Dodgers. Nothing's going to happen to him if he did or didn't do it. I tend to think he didn't, just because it's not looks like the only thing I think he probably did was help pay for it, but not thinking it out very well, and not having someone helping him out with that decision, because it could be looked at as, oh, you're part of this, because you're not supposed to be mixing with people who are taking bets and so forth, right? Bookies and things like that, because that's a big no-no for MLB. So
What do you do if your child gets caught in a cycle of self-destructive or even dangerous behavior? Some desperate parents are having their children abducted, taken against their will to a behavior modification program.
hey there, welcome back to Pod and Deliver. Tonight we're looking at it's funny, I'm gonna say a program about a program, but it's actually a documentary titled The Program: Cons, Cults, and Kidnapping. This came out recently, 2024, and it follows the this woman by the name of Catherine Kugler. She's a documentarian, and her time at Ivy Ridge Academy. This is a school, I believe, in, oh gosh, now I'm forgetting the area, Ruben, but I think it was like North Carolina or Virginia. And her parents sent her there in 2004. And she actually was kidnapped from her school. When I say kidnapped, some guys came in after school, grabbed her, put her in a van, and then they took her to this school. And she had no clue what was happening. Her parents never told her that, hey, you're going to go to the school for a while, and these guys are going to come and pick you up. No, she was drug into this van. She was taken to the school. Once she got into the building, she wasn't even allowed to go out. So these gentlemen went and got her bags. Anyway, this tells the story of her 15-month time at this school, where it was not a typical school. And there's three episodes to this documentary, Ruben. The first one is titled "Where the F Am I?" Number two is "Mind Control," and the third episode is "Follow the Money." And I got to see all three of them, and it really does follow this woman's story. And now she's older, because it's 2024 now, right? So this is like 20 years ago. So she's about 35 years old now, and she's looking back at her time there, and she brings in a few other young people or people who were with her, and they share their stories about their time there and how they were beaten up and how they were sometimes fondled, sometimes just all this abuse that took place at the school, and then even the education that they gave to them. It wasn't much of an education. I think it was based on a homeschooling program, but a really bad homeschool program, and it was on through a computer. And in the end, they find out that they didn't even really get diplomas. It's the ones that finished the program there. And so, really done wrong. These kids are carrying all this trauma in their lives. So when they look back at it, they just angry. And you can see this woman, she just seems angry, even with her father, who had just gotten recently married. The stepmother was not very kind to this lady. And you see that in the documentary as well, where she's even working out afterwards her relationship with her dad and trying to get that squared away. But she carries a lot of anger, and you can't blame her, because that those 15 months were hell. Just the way they made them not look out the window. They had to look straight. They can't look at people. They couldn't talk to people. Um, just a lot of mental games with them. And Ruben, I guess the program is a WWASP. I think it's worldwide. I can't remember what it stands for, but it's I got to get the title of it. But anyway, it's a series of schools that are out there that does that educate kids this way. And it must be a couple dozen of them. And you find out by the third episode that there's this one family that's really controlling it, and you kind of see where the money's going, and they're making millions of dollars of all this. The sad part is you find out too that a lot of kids have taken their lives going through this afterwards, because they can't deal with all that trauma that they went through. It was a very upsetting documentary to watch, because you see these kids. There's video footage, and I do want to let the viewer and the listener know that there's some really disturbing footage in this documentary. So you have to be careful with that if you have kids. But it's just sad to see how they're treated and how they were manipulated, and even the parents, how they were manipulated, because they went through the same kind of idea of this program. And then the program is where these kids they try and go through these levels, and they do all these crazy things, like um you know uh they do hand games. They have to get like this towel that's wrapped up and beat the floor for hours just to get them just in a place where they could really do mind games on them. But
So,
Ruben,
so I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what you're saying.
so there's a program that they
towel,
so there's a
Yeah.
program that they have to go through. There's these levels, and at each level they have to basically pass, but they're asked to do certain things, right? It could be staring at a wall. It could be doing these hand movements and saying a slogan or saying over and over again. It could be a towel wrapped up and where they're hitting the floor for hours, like 8 hours a day, just smacking the floor. It could be anything like that. And so as you go through the levels, you have different types of things that are asked of you. Actually, the higher levels, you start becoming people who are given a little bit more freedom. When I say freedom, you get to help cook, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or at least clean up. Believe it or not, that's something they look forward to because they're doing something different. They're not just looking at a wall all day. And so these kids, as they move up and if they get to the 6th level, then they're ready to move out. But not too many kids get to that last level because kids it's hard to look at a wall for 8 hours, or hard to whatever they're asking you to do. They're asking you to do some really difficult things, even if standing straight for a couple hours and not
Right.
saying a word.
So this girl which is our focus
Yeah.
of the documentary. There are other kids, but this particular girl gets, you use the word kidnapped, but this was in cahoots with the parents, organized by the parents with this institute, this camp, to take her away because she has been misbehaving. Let me ask you a question. Is it really clear what she was doing? What all her behaviors were?
She seemed like a normal teenager. I think she drank a Mike's Hard Liquor, and her parents found out. They were upset about it. Her stepmother seemed to be pretty tough on her, and I don't think
So,
it's
so it wasn't clear. It
just
wasn't
that.
that clear. Because when you're mentioning the Mike's Hard Liquor, that's her testimony. That's what she said. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, because to me, this was not an effective documentary in the least. So I was not as touched or as moved as you were, for a couple of reasons. First, I'm asking, what is her crime? What are her behaviors? I'm not justifying this program. I'm not saying, oh, there's a reason they should have taken her out in the cover of night, and taken her away. I'm not saying that. I don't agree with these type of programs, but tell us what she did, not just from her perspective, because some of our students can exaggerate, but I don't take her word 100% when I'm watching this. I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, you drank a bottle of Mike's Hard Liquor. Really? Your parents took you away because you drank a bottle of Mike's Hard Liquor. Okay, let's hear what the parents say. And they don't interview the parents. Now, I'm aware that there are some people who don't want to get talked to, but for me, it's not effective. It's not persuasive. And I'm thinking, what can I learn from this too? I'm wanting to know her behaviors, because I want to see not only how not to do something, but how to approach it. Not just what not to do. Don't send her away to this institute, to this camp. Okay, but what do we do? What are her behaviors and how do we approach it? Instead, I learned nothing. It was a constant drubbing of this camp. Well, we already know it's bad. We already know. We've gotten 1,000 examples. So one example that I noticed with this particular girl is that for her bad deeds, she had to carry a box all day. And she had to go from class to class with this box, which sounds very abusive. It does. And so it's weird. And they tell the other aides and teachers, if she has bruises on her arms, it's not because of malfeasance, bad behavior, we didn't do anything. She bumped herself on the walls because she's carrying a box all day. So this is a form of mind control, right? This is really bad. But I just didn't learn anything because I already knew within the first 10 minutes I didn't like this place. Therefore, what?
Yeah.
Then what? And I'm sorry, we need to hear from their perspective. They didn't do a very good job of
Yeah.
letting us hear their side of the story. Not because they are in the right and that they're going to persuade us, but they have some philosophy that is useful to discuss and to say, well, this is what's wrong with your philosophy. This is why you shouldn't take kids in the middle of the night. This can bring more trauma and more bad behaviors. I was really bored.
Yeah.
I learned very little. Didn't like it.
Yeah, I felt differently. Definitely. I really thought it was, and I see your point regarding, they didn't really sit down with the parents. You did see the parents. There were some parents throughout the three episodes, but they didn't really deal with, hey, this kid was giving me trouble for months, and we were at our wits' end. They didn't even do, especially with the person doing the documentary, Catherine Kubler. They showed you the dad, and he was more sorry than anything at the end, and so forth. But and you could tell that he regretted sending his daughter there. But there's definitely some things, I'm sure, that they didn't share with us regarding, besides drinking the alcohol, that she was difficult. And I got that. And throughout the documentary, I get that a lot of these kids were definitely doing things they shouldn't be doing. Now, how they treated these kids and how they decided how to, change them or modify their behavior, not a good idea. Especially when you're getting all these people who are working, who are not educated, who don't know anything about child psychology, do not know therapy, they're not teachers. These are all people who have really no education at all. And they're there to help these kids.
So
Doesn't make
I
sense.
just I want to point out something that kind of maybe puts more into focus of what I mean, why they really didn't make good use of their time in creating this documentary, or at least it could be a little bit more effective. There are students out there that I have certainly met in the context of my teaching career, in which there are certain types of students who would be labeled out of control, that there is nothing that has worked. There have been non-public schools that have intervened. So it's non-traditional. They couldn't make it to the traditional, so they go to a non-traditional school. They've gone to a probationary school. There are schools like that you've worked at, I've worked at. That hasn't worked. So now they've gone to jail and come out of jail, or their juvenile hall. That hasn't worked. It would have been very instructive. I'm just assuming from watching this documentary that some, maybe not this girl, but some of that population ended up at this type of institute, this type of camp. Well, wouldn't it have been nice to do a kind of like a dual documentary where we see this horrible camp, but then we see on the side a kid who is just out of control, this type of student, and we think what to do, how to manage, and a kid who never made it, and a kid that did, and how they made it, how they succeeded. But instead, we just had 1 hour straight of the bad things of this camp, which 15 minutes in, you already preached it. You already converted me. Now what?
And I think part of maybe the problem, Ruben, is that, and to answer what you're sharing, is that the documentarian, it was real personal to her. She just has this in her, and this anger. She could tell she's still dealing with the anger, the bitterness. And maybe if somebody outside of her was doing it, right, who was producing it, would have been better. Because then they would have thought,
they needed an objective viewpoint on this.
Good point.
Because when you're too close, we just get the anger. We get a lot of smoke, no light. A lot of heat, light.
I would say this, it's still, for me, in my opinion, it's still worth watching, even if you watch the last episode that deals with following the money. And I think you and I have talked about this before, that when somebody has a lot of money, where we're talking millions and maybe many, many millions of dollars, it's really hard to go after them. And in this film, you see that these people who are at the top, it's really hard to bring them down because they're protected by powerful people, right? And so, but a program like this needs to be taken down. So at the end, you get a little frustrated, like, wow, is this ever going to happen? You hope it will, but you know that powerful people are behind these programs, and they're protecting these really evil people. But overall, I would. I know you don't seem to be a fan of it. I thought it was worth watching. Again, I liked the things that you shared because it does make sense that they should have an objective producer director doing this. So with that, I want to thank you for joining us on Pod and Deliver tonight as we looked at the Netflix program, right? And we hope to see you soon on Pod and Deliver. Have a good night. And hey, don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.